Kobato. 頑張ります。
What are you doing with your life? What are you working for? What will you accomplish during your time? How could that time be better served improving that of another? Altruism is a rarely spoken word nowadays. In philosophy, it is the idea of doing things just for the sake of doing good, with no thought about what you could possibly get out of it. In all actuality, it's the principle of complete and utter selfless concern for the well-being of others. It's a concept that's so rare to see in practice that some pessimists think it doesn't even exist. I'll bet you're thinking, wait, this is an anime review. What the hell are you on about? There isn't an anime with such an ideal. Well, I'm here to tell you that there is. It's called Kobato. There are two terms that I'd use that best describe the series in general. The first is altruistic. The second is one of a kind. And the point of it all is empathy. It shows the heartwarming inspiration and greatness of what happens when someone abandons their own interests for the sake of helping others. When someone becomes selfless, the avenue is opened up for miraculous outcomes and beautiful changes in people's lives. The premise is extremely original and superbly done. It really is the only anime, no, the only media of its kind. Kobato is about the titular character's mission to fill a jar with confetti. Whenever she heals someone's heart, she gets a piece of confetti, and when it's full, her wish will come true. But she only has a set time to do it, which causes a lot of stress for her companion. That's where altruism comes into the scene. I was a little nervous at first because of how moe-focused Kobato Hanato seemed to be, but that fear was completely unfounded. I quickly learned just how great of a character she is. Her mission is to heal people's hearts to fill her bottle with confetti so her wish can be granted. But it becomes obvious early on that she is far too concerned with the well-being of others to worry about the filling of the jar for her own ends. Yogi-san constantly observes this and stresses over how she may not complete her task in time to have her wish granted. She'll spend days or longer working towards a single end. The thought of whether or not she'll even get a confetti for it won't even cross her mind. But she'll be pleasantly surprised when she ends up earning one. Actually, when she sets out with the intent to get one, she never gets one. But when she sets out just with the mindset to help somebody, she'll get one. She's outgoing to the point of having no shame, and great with kids, and loves to help out at the local preschool, even though this doesn't directly get her any closer to her goal. She loses sleep worrying about the problems of those around her. She relentlessly seeks solutions, no matter how poorly she may be treated or how ungrateful a person may be. She just wants to help people and see them be happy. If we had more characters, or better yet, people like Kobato, the world would be a better place. It's disheartening that mindless fan service dolls are more popular than characters that are actually good from shows with actual substance. Sure, she's clumsy and ditzy and really cute. A lot of shows abuse these traits to make flat, piece of shit characters that are there just for fan appeal. While Kobato is all of these things, she is actually a really deep character. She cares about others, even people who are mean to her. She's completely selfless, she's outgoing, she's optimistic, and she's innocent, despite being impulsive, naive, and straightforward to a fault. Kobato teaches us to take pleasure in little things as she carries out every task happily and with a smile, even ones that we may not necessarily want to do. It's really touching to see how she affects the lives of those she comes in contact with. It's a combination of all of these things that leads to the creation of what is perhaps the best wife and mother material to ever grace the world of fiction, and one of the most grossly underrated characters ever. Fujimoto is a helper at the Yomogi preschool that Kobato starts working at as well. If you've heard of the character type Ice Queen, he's basically that, but male, an Ice King. He acts cold and actively resists Kobato's attempts to get close to him and criticizes her for her naivete and clumsiness. In spite of his unfriendly demeanor, his actions show that he's actually a really good person. He works hard at part-time jobs to try to help with repaying the preschool's debt. He works hard at the preschool to protect it and ensure that the kids have the best possible conditions they can provide. He's going to college to be an attorney, undoubtedly because of the situation at Yomogi. His cold demeanor and other actions are tied in well with his past. Yogi-san, I have to say san because Kobato says it every time, is the animated stuffed animal that serves as Kobato's mentor and companion. He is bad-tempered and quick to scathingly criticize Kobato for her naivete and stupidity, sometimes calling her Dobato, stupid dove. Kobato means baby dove or little dove. However, he will acknowledge her efforts when he feels she deserves it, and the reason he's so harsh on her is that they only have a certain amount of time to finish their task. The show has more characterization and character development in a single episode than many anime contain over the span of their entire runtime. The side characters are handled extremely well, and the majority of them have an impressive amount of depth for the amount of screen time that they get. They're unique in that almost every character that seems that they've lost relevance after their time in the spotlight is over actually comes back in great ways, many times further affecting the outcome of the story. It's easy to fall in love with almost everyone, as they all have distinct quirks and traits that set them apart. Another nice aspect is how well defined character relationships are. It's touching to see the characters change after their encounters with Kobato. The show deals with very real issues people go through and examines the power one person stepping outside of themselves can have, making all the difference in changing a life. Even the most stone-hearted aren't safe from her outgoing and caring nature. No wound can't be healed with the proper care. Characters are perfect except for Ioryogi-san, as he doesn't get enough closure on his end during the conclusion. Like I stated already, the story is the first of its kind, and probably also the last. It takes a completely original concept and executes it brilliantly. At the beginning, it gives off a vibe that it's going to be episodic. Kobato meets someone who has a problem. She becomes concerned about them, worrying about them, and thinks about how she could best help them. Then she helps them, and everyone ends up happy. Cue massive heartwarming. However, this general setup is only used in 4 episodes, and these episodes definitely aren't self-contained stories. There are plot points that tie into the central story, and the characters that seem like one-episode wonders come back to affect events later on. Also, the character development that occurs here is important as well. After those episodes are over, the story stays purely continuous. The premise seems like it's set up to just remain episodic throughout the entire duration of the show. Thank God they didn't go that route. The story is actually much deeper than the premise lets on. There's some much deeper underlying plot lines that tie together and explain everything still. It reveals just enough so that you understand what's going on, but keeps enough hidden to leave some details open to your interpretation. If you really want to know about it, you can read up about the extra information the manga offers. It's actually pretty interesting, but a bit extraneous and unnecessarily complicating for the anime adaptation. All of the plot points wrap up nicely in the end, with a very satisfying amount of closure, except for the aforementioned bit of unfortunate Ioryogi-san neglect. In case you don't have eyes, the visuals are stunning. When I looked up who had produced it, I was really surprised to find out that it was Madhouse. You know, Madhouse, the studio most notable for their dark, gritty, bloody anime, like Black Lagoon and Hellsing Ultimate, among others. I don't know about you, but something as bright and colorful as Kobato was the last thing I'd ever expect from Madhouse. The color palette they implement is really light and pretty, which helps reflect the overall happy tone of the show. The artwork is beautiful. Character designs are really unique and attractive. Kobato in particular, as a lot of attention is given to the different outfits she wears. The only problem people might have with it is that most of the girls have really long hair that goes down almost to the floor. The scenery is outright pornographic. Particularly outstanding is the snow and Christmas scenes. Madhouse exhibits their talent with splendid lighting effects. How well a production studio handles lighting in dark scenes is one of the things I look for most when assessing art quality. The animation is good as well. I don't think falling snow and pouring rain have ever looked so pretty. A lot of attention is given to everything, even simple things like hair movement when someone is moving, although it's not to the level where you see individual strands often. The most outstanding part, however, is the facial expressions, which are probably the best I've seen in any anime. It's amazing how the tiniest alterations in expression can completely change the perceived emotion of the character. Kobato realizes that you don't have to go over the top to show such emotions as surprise. Such things as someone's mouth completely popping open aren't necessary to depict it. The case in point of this is Fujimoto, whose facial expressions don't change very often, so you have to note the little details to tell what's on his mind. Kana Hanazawa's performance as Kobato is the best voice acting I've ever had the pleasure to witness, perfectly depicting every mood. Kobato's normal, peppy, happy, excited nature, to her unsure and doubtful moments, to her scared, vulnerable, and sad moods. She has a beautiful voice that just makes you happy naturally. She even sings the song several times throughout the course of the series, which is a real treat, though it would have been nice if they had used 2 or even more instead of just 1 to switch it up a bit. The other seiyuu are also great. The entire cast is great at portraying just the right amount of emotions perfectly. Particularly outstanding is Tetsu Inada as the gruff, angry, foul-mouthed Ioryogi-san. The only problem I had with the voice acting was the little kids, which are big time hit and miss. Some of them sound cute and closer to realism and all, but some of them just sound really awkward and bad. Mostly the boys. I actually cringed at times. From a show like this, I would have expected them to go the route of Usagi Drop and use actual kids to voice little kids. Yes, it bothers me that much. The opening theme is an upbeat and happy song called Magic Number by Maya Sakamoto, which, along with the opening sequence, perfectly represents the overall happy tone Kobato possesses. The ending theme is a curious, simple, touching song called Jellyfish's Confession by Megumi Nakajima, one of my favorite Japanese vocalists, who happens to voice these cute little twins. The soundtrack is good as well and is really fitting for the show, but I really feel it could have just been better. In dramedies, it's important to keep drama and comedy separate, or else the comedy will completely destroy the mood set by the drama. That's one of the problems I had with Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which would interrupt serious scenes like fights with comedic chibi moments, usually with some crack about Edward's lacking stature. I hated it a lot. One misplaced line can completely butcher the mood of a scene. Fortunately, Kobato knows what's appropriate and when, but is quick to throw a crack in once the storm has passed and the happy status quo has been restored, helping complete the transition and elevating the viewer's spirits. Sometimes though, this method of transition happens too abruptly, though it at least doesn't try to revert back to darker, deeper matters immediately afterward. Kobato has a lot of funny comedy. My favorite aspects were the depiction of Kobato being clumsy, like her falling on her face. The comedy gradually becomes less and less frequent and prevalent as the series progresses, as more and more importance is placed on the serious and dramatic elements. Also accompanying these scenes is the use of chibi, which actually bothered me a lot less than chibi normally does. Kobato literally made me put my hands together and clap like an idiot because it made me so happy the first time I watched it. I can't remember what scenes I did it during, but it happened. That's right, me who talked about being sadistic all through his Hellgirl reviews. Although to be fair, that sadism only exists for evil people. There are many heartwarming moments throughout, which are a source of many smiles and even tears of joy. The show renewed my faith in humanity. It gave me hope that there may still be good people out there with actual morals who care about their fellow man. Kobato is a ballsy show for deciding to take the road it does. Not many people can appreciate a show with the content it has. It's wholesome, pure, innocent, and clean. All endangered, unappreciated, underrated qualities in this day and age. I really can't stress this fact enough. There's no fan service at all. All the girls wear plenty of clothes, either dresses or long pants, except for one girl's short safe-coo skirt. There aren't any gratuitous big boobs or cleavage. There is only one scene of nudity, but it's very brief and tame and relevant to the story. I just recently watched this again, and I made this review afterwards. I can't figure out why I only gave it a 9 the first time. Giving it anything less than a 10 is just not fair. It's extremely original, it's heartwarming, the characters are awesome, especially Kobato. The drama is well executed, it's extremely emotionally compelling. The flaws are few and minor. As a critic, it's a 10 out of 10. As a fanboy, it's a 10. For uniqueness, it gets a 10. For ballsiness, it gets a 10. For heartwarming, it gets an 11. The Blu-ray volumes came bundled with some short 90-second specials. They're just random and silly short animations. I wasn't too impressed with them, and I didn't find the comedy too great, which is what they were all about. But more of Kana Hanazawa's voice is always good. Kobato is literally a life-changing show. Remember the questions I posed at the beginning? The ones about what you're spending your life doing? Those are questions you'll probably end up asking yourself. It made me take a step back and re-examine how I was living, and radically altered my outlook on life in general. There's a view in philosophy that there's no such thing as a truly selfless action, basing their argument on the premise that we're only doing it because seeing someone in need bothers us, because we ourselves would feel better and be at peace if they were happier. But what about people for whom this sense of relief is only a side effect? What about the people who truly don't care about themselves and are willing to go above and beyond to lend a hand when someone needs it? I'm of the belief that altruism really does exist. Pessimistic philosophers can't tell you the feelings of someone else. Kobato shows you how great your life can be when you realize that following your own dreams isn't the only source of fulfillment. Even as I was making this review, I was smiling just remembering the scenes as I put the clips in the video. Kobato is one of those rarities that soothes the soul. It's hard not to find yourself smiling often, since there are many heartwarming moments throughout. The show regularly brings tears to the eye, not really of sadness, but happiness. It's definitely something to consider checking out if you like happier anime, or need something to cheer you up. In general, I just can't recommend Kobato enough. I just hope you're able to get as much out of it as I did.